Hello, YouTube. This is the Galley La Podcast, and today we are going to be reviewing One Piece manga chapter 1098, The Birth of Bonnie. And cover letter, we got Brooke, and I guess we could talk about this kind of right off the bat, but we see the chapter manuscript is unfinished. That scared me. That's like kind of the first time I think I've seen that reading the manga week to week.
Yeah.
Got me worried and concerned. But what were your thoughts, just generally about this topic?
I mean, you can definitely tell. I've seen it in a couple other series where they just kind of have to rush it out. But they fix it for the later chapter release. I think Hunter x Hunter has done stuff like this, and I kind of remember My Hero and stuff. But I just hope that I want Oda to finish out the year, give us like up to chapter 1100. But after that, I think he needs a little break. If it continues like this, or if this is just a one-off thing. But yeah. I mean, the chapter isn't like completely unreadable.
Yeah, no, there was like a couple of really good panels too that I enjoyed and everything. So,
I would even say with the subject of this chapter, it kind of casts a whole like darkness around it, you know.
Yeah, and so there were parts where I was like, is that intentional or is that just like unfinished? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? So I was kind of going back and forth with that. But yeah, kind of like with the start of the chapter, it says a requesting back of the Toomey Uprising. So you have some stuff going on there right now. And so we have Kuma kind of going back into combat, you know, and he kind of just seems to be in warrior mode ever since Ginny got captured, basically.
Yeah, because we find out that she gets taken by the Celestial Dragons. Which, we've kind of seen this happen with like Sabody, but not to anyone that we knew as a character.
Right, and and which, you know, is I mean, obviously it's a flashback, so it's going to be tragic, but this was probably one of the most tragic things we've seen in a backstory. I'd say it's kind of like up there with Law, you know, and everything like that too, you know, and I'm glad we've been able to have a good amount of time to get to know her character too over these chapters as well. And I do, and it was kind of interesting because this is the first time we saw the Revolutionary Army flag too.
I think it's been in the background, but like it's kind of up in the forefront more. With it looks like a dragon.
I guess like that part, the dragon part, it came out more, you know, and everything like that. And so basically, obviously, Kuma's in combat because kind of like in a way vengeance, and then also I think with the off chance of getting Ginny too, you know, like eventually he'll find her. I think that's kind of part of it. And after 2 years have passed, you know, we basically get this call back from Ginny and everything, and it's just terrible because Kuma gets like, whoa, you know, this is great, and then, you know, quickly the bad news is given out and everything, and it's just like horrific, you know. It's like, you know, to hear from her, he's like, I'm gonna be dying soon, you know. And Kuma's able to like pop over immediately, but even with his fruit, he shows up there, and it's still like not enough time, you know, to help out, basically, you know.
I think this is also like, I don't know, I got some, if you've ever read Berserk, I got like Berserk vibes off of this with like Kuma is turning into Guts from that, just on the path of vengeance. But yeah, this is one of the darker things because we see that Bonnie is Ginny's daughter with a celestial dragon. And I don't know, just having it kind of basically confirmed, like they do this kind of stuff. It was, I mean, we saw at Sabody where I think it was Charlos took the guy's wife for his own, and then stuff with Hancock's flashbacks and everything. But it's not like stated right out like what they do with them. It's like, oh, they're slaves, but this is more of a definitely darker side to it, which I was reading some of the comments for this chapter, and they're like, oh, like marriage is like it's kind of censoring like what happens to them. But yeah, I was surprised that Oda would go like to that point.
Yeah, so I think like there's a lot of symbolism we can kind of get out of here, where we were kind of talking about the religious Christian symbolism in the last chapter, where Kuma is a type of Christ figure in a way, and I think Ginny is too, in the sense where she sacrificed her life to save Bonnie, and she dies immediately like under a cross, you know. And then Kuma comes again to do another life of service and sacrifice to raise Bonnie and to be there for Bonnie and to protect Bonnie. But so instead of him marrying Jenny, a celestial dragon who he hates marries Jenny, right? Instead of it being his kid, it's a celestial dragon's kid, the extension of the bloodline of who he hates and who he despises, you know? So, and again, he's living a sacrificial life for people who hate him in a way, you know, like I know Bonnie does it, right? But kind of like the fallen bloodline, the evil bloodline, and Akuma's trying to save and to love that bloodline, you know. Just obviously the people who crucify Christ died for him, right? Them, you know, similar concept there too, you know. And I think so. And when you talk about the term marriage, you know, I think like, yeah, it's a century, but I think it's also intentional to kind of be like, Kuma didn't get to marry his wife, right? You know, but the celestial dragon got to marry his wife, you know, and because it goes back, you know, he sees a flashback, you know, hey Kumachi, let's get married, you know. So he has a good heart, he's very powerful, but ultimately he failed, or like he lost in a way, you know. It was all taken out of his hands, you know. And so it's just all sorts of awful and tragedy, you know. And I think it was like it was crystallized, I think, pretty well that like Kuma is like the ultimate tragic character. And then I think with Bonnie, she's maybe seen more and more of this, you know, as time goes on, and when she was kind of looking back at Kuma's past and everything, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if we also look at it, Bonnie, because of her fruit, she can manipulate her age, but in reality, she's only like we see later on, like when Bonnie was 5, that was 7 years ago, so she's only 12 in the whole scheme of everything. So to have this kind of stuff revealed to her, yeah, it makes sense why she's the way that she is.
Totally. And you know, Oda tries to give us like some cute moments, some nice moments here, like feeding the Bonnie and everything like that, and Kuma just, it gives him like another purpose to live, you know. But I think the fact that he becomes a loyal dog of the government just makes it more and more crazy. Like, why would he do that? You know, like.
So I do have a theory about that.
Okay.
But, yeah.
But I just want to add like one point with the idea of him and Jinbei as characters, you know, because what happened to Jinbei was awful and terrible, but this is so much worse, you know, to how they both became warlords and stuff, you know. But yeah, you go.
So yeah, we get the scene where Bonnie has the same disease, the sapphire scale, as her mother, and they can't be exposed to sunlight and everything. But what my theory for what is going to happen, because we also have to see how Kuma gets introduced to Vegapunk. So I think that somehow he gets in contact with Vegapunk and he can cure Bonnie, but the government finds out, and the only way that they will allow him to do that is if he becomes a warlord and becomes part of the Pacifista program.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good theory, actually.
That's what I think. But I also think that it's interesting, like where Bonnie first is like displaying signs of the sapphire scale is right where her ring under her eye is, her piercing.
Yeah. That's a good point to catch that. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's you brought up Law earlier, that it's kind of the same because she's also a supernova who has like an incurable disease and everything. But what do you think? Do you think that the sapphire scale is just something that is just a natural disease? Because it seems like nobody really knew what it was. It's such a rare disease.
Yeah, because I think they even referenced the disease Law had, right?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did. I'm blanking on the name of it right now.
The white lead one. Yeah.
Yeah, the white one. If I had to assume, I think it was just basically she punched the celestial dragon or did something like that, and they put a disease on her for hurting a celestial dragon or trying to escape, and then the disease got passed down to her and her kid, basically. You know, that's kind of like my theory, basically, that it was something the celestial dragons gave them. You know, maybe it's like a type of disease they give to their slaves. You know, in the event that they leave Marijoa or whatever, then like this disease gets triggered, basically.
Maybe. But I mean, we haven't seen that with Hancock or anyone. So,
maybe the Wise. Well, then again, yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, that's just kind of my first instinct. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we get to see Kuma talking to the doctor about the disease, and like Bonnie mishears it. Like it'll all be over by the time that she's 10. And it's like dealing with like real world, like terminally ill patients. Like I don't know. I'm trying to think if it's like that meme, like name one character who suffered more, but like Kuma's getting up there with it. But yeah, and even thinking back to how like after the time skip, Kuma was like a slave to the celestial dragons as their like mindless pack mule. It's like, Oda, like you can disperse this to other characters. It doesn't all have to be Kuma.
And then like Akainu blows off his face with lava too.
Yeah.
But I do think, look, forgive me if I bring this up too much, but if you see him, and I think Oda's really clearing this out, like bringing him like as a Christ figure, then it's like someone who brings in the ultimate amount of suffering for people as a sacrifice, you know. And I think like Oda is displaying that imagery more and more, than like it's kind of like expected. He's probably going to be the character that suffers the most in this entire series, if I had to guess, you know. Also because I don't know how this could be topped, to be perfectly frank, you know.
I don't know. We need to see maybe the Rocks flashback, the legendary Rocks flashback,
or someone,
or Imu is like this weirdly sympathetic character who has to wipe out every. They're gonna talk no jutsu, Imu.
They're gonna top Obito.
Yeah. But just another couple things I wanted to point out. Like we see where Bonnie got her name because Kuma's trying to cheer her up with the scale spreading. It said it looks like jewelry. And then right after that, he says to Bonnie, like, if you were to go on a trip, where would you like to go? Yeah, it's just between that and like the thing in the previous chapters where Eva left. It's like recontextualizing all these lines that he said throughout the series, and I really like that.
And I think just it's really good. Yeah, like how Oda's doing all these callbacks. It's great that he has a lot of this set up and everything, and I think it's really good. And I think the characterization with Bonnie and Kuma too, and you like them a lot. It's an adorable relationship between the two and everything, and I like it. And of course, it gets interrupted immediately with the kingdom getting attacked again. Just 1 year later. It's only 1 year later, and then the king's back. So kind of how I look, how he's called the tyrant. I guess you could say Kuma did the distraction to the kingdom, and then the king came back to free the area, and that's how Kuma became known as the tyrant, basically. You know, I think they're gonna do some phenomenally terrible stuff and said that Kuma was the one that did it, and that the king came to liberate the kingdom, basically.
Yeah, I mean, there's that, or maybe he like does drive him out, and takes over because I think he was referred to as the king of the Sorbet Kingdom, so maybe he does like straight up kill him like in a really gruesome way, and takes them out of like the world government. I don't know.
Since the never-ending tragedy continues to unfold, so
I mean that's wonderful. That's a wonderful way of
that's what I mean. Yeah. That's just kind of how. Yeah, I think he's gonna get blamed for just basically killing. I think my little mini theory right here: all these people are gonna die. That's the ones he's trying to protect, And I think he'll get overpowered in the process, and that he'll be imprisoned and everything too. So. Yeah.
So I do have one crackpot theory.
Go ahead.
That I heard and I liked was that it doesn't specify who the Celestial Dragon was, but I read somewhere someone say, like, wouldn't it be crazy if it was Garling?
Yeah.
Because of the fact that like he took out their whole army, or the whole part of the army that she was part of, and we don't know the Celestial Dragons to be like actual combatants. So they took her on a government ship because the Celestial Dragon wanted to make her his bride. So, and we've seen in the past that Garling is like a formidable fighter. So I think that would be interesting, like potentially related to Shanks in that way. But yeah, what do you think of that?
I think that's a really good theory, actually. Yeah.
Because
really the only, like, Charlos and his sister obviously would be too young, I think, at this point for that,
Yeah.
And then the only other ones are like Doflamingo, but Doflamingo wouldn't be a Celestial Dragon because I think at like age 10, roughly, right? He got out of it, and that's something I could see Doflamingo doing, but he wouldn't be a Celestial Dragon at this point. And then, that's it, really. Those are like kind of the only ones that come to mind, to be honest. Maybe like Charles's dad, but I think Garland would have more impact for sure for the story, and I think contextualizes Shanks's character a lot more too.
Yeah. And I also kind of thought how I was like, oh, why didn't the Revolutionary Army try and rescue her? But I thought about it, and it's like, well, this is the early part of them getting together and everything. Like we saw last chapter, that they didn't even have like proper funding. They were latching onto other revolutions. So it makes sense why they didn't go after her, because they would be taking on everything. And it's I hate to say it, but it is only one commander of the whole thing. But yeah, good tragic chapter. And no chapter next week, but considering what we're seeing this week with the art and everything, Oda deserves the break.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just rough chapter. Yeah, but a great chapter and rough chapter. Just shit, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, basically.
Yep. So, anyways, Akainu Fanboy, other guys, Geboss, we're signing off. Please like and subscribe if you have not, and leave a comment on your thoughts on this chapter. All right, I'll see ya. Peace.
See ya.